Amid the humid embrace of the greenhouse, the air was thick with the sweet perfume of blooming jasmine and the earthy scent of damp soil, a fragrant tapestry woven by nature's hand. Sunlight poured through the glass panes, casting golden patches on the vibrant foliage, illuminating the delicate veins of emerald leaves and the pastel blossoms peeping shyly from their verdant shelter. "Look at this one, Clara," whispered James, his eyes wide with wonder as he gently brushed his fingers against a velvety petal. It's glowing." Clara knelt beside him, her heart swelling with a mixture of pride and nostalgia, recalling the countless evenings they'd spent here, planting seeds of hope and dreams. "Remember when we thought we'd never see anything grow?" she replied, a soft smile dancing on her lips as she ran her hand through the rich, loamy soil. Each tiny sprout seemed to pulse with life, a testament to resilience and the magic of nurturing. With every exhale, she felt the weight of their past fears lifting, replaced by the joyous realization that growth, both in the garden and within them, was a relentless journey filled with unexpected beauty. Ilara knelt in the damp earth of the greenhouse, her fingers deftly caressing the velvety petals of a moonflower, its scent curling around her like a familiar embrace. Her heart raced with each heartbeat, the surrounding clamor of laughter and chatter from her classmates a distant echo, a reminder of the bustling life she often felt detached from. "You're losing track of time again, Ilara," called out Jenna, her voice light and teasing as she swung into the doorway, sunlight catching in her hair like gold. Ilara barely glanced up, captivated by the delicate tendrils unfurling around her fingertips. "They won't mind if I'm late," she murmured, a small smile tugging at her lips. "These flowers need me." Jenna's laughter trailed off, leaving an uncomfortable silence in its wake, and Ilara felt the familiar knot of longing in her chest, yearning for connection, yet finding solace in the quiet whisper of petals. The moonflower twisted around her hand, as if sensing her unease, and she closed her eyes, inhaling deeply, letting the earthy fragrance ground her. "They don't understand," she whispered to the growing plant, tracing its silhouette, "but you do." The air inside the Hogwarts greenhouse was thick with the sweet, earthy scent of damp soil, and the vibrant aroma of blossoms in riotous colors, their petals unfurling like secrets whispered among friends. Sunlight poured through the glass panes, casting dappled patterns on the stone floor, while the low hum of buzzing insects filled the air, a symphony conducted by the unseen magic of the forbidden forest beyond. Ivy tendrils curled lazily around wooden beams, and clusters of glistening leaves glimmered under the soft glow, as if in conversation with the shadows that lurked in the corners. "Look at this one, Luna," Neville exclaimed, kneeling beside a plant with brilliant iridescent blooms, their colors shifting like the sky at dawn. "I think it's a flitterbloom." "Careful, it might bite," Luna replied, her voice airy and playful as she reached out to touch a nearby Venus flytrap, its jaws poised, glistening with anticipation. Just then, a gentle breeze whispered through the open window, carrying with it the crisp scent of pine needles and a hint of adventure, igniting a flicker of excitement in the chest of every student present in that magical space, surrounded by nature's wonders and a thrill of possibility. The world outside faded, leaving only the enchantment of the greenhouse to cradle their imaginations. The classroom buzzed with anticipation as Professor Sprout, her voice warm yet commanding, beckoned the students closer. "Today," she began, "we'll delve into the wonders of the empathia, a rare magical plant that mirrors emotional energy." The air crackled with curiosity, a palpable tension woven through the rustling leaves of the classroom's greenery. As she unveiled a pot, the plant emerged, its delicate, vibrant tendrils swaying gently, as if breathing in the collective excitement of the room. Students leaned in, eyes wide. Mila felt a flutter of hope, igniting an urge to connect. "But be warned," Sprout continued, her gaze sharp, "this plant doesn't just reflect joy, it exposes all emotions. Fear, sorrow, elation." The words hung in the air. A thrill coursed through her as she exchanged glances with Theo, his brow furrowed, uncertainty flickering in his emerald eyes. "What if it shows something we don't want to see?" he whispered, the question hanging uncomfortably between them. Just then, the empathia's leaves trembled slightly, drawing their focus, inviting them into a labyrinth of feelings as the essence of their fears and desires seeped into the room, ready to unfurl like a secret waiting to be discovered. The greenhouse was a whispering haven, sunlight streaming through the glass panels, illuminating the air thick with the scent of damp earth and blooming foliage. Ilara stepped deeper into the lush sanctuary, her heart a restless flutter within her chest as she brushed past the vibrantly colored orchids. A soft sigh escaped her lips, and as if in response, the leaves of a peculiar plant nearby shimmered, the petals of the empathia bending slightly, then drooping, as though absorbing her sorrow. "Oh," she murmured, kneeling closer, her fingers grazing the delicate stems. "What's wrong with you?" In that intimate moment, she felt an inexplicable connection. The plant thrummed with an energy that mirrored her own unspoken melancholy. A bulb of sadness lodged in her throat, recalling memories she wished to forget. As she blinked back the unease, the empathia's vibrant greens dulled further, a reflection of her spirit. "I didn't mean to make you sad," she whispered, a tinge of guilt prickling at her. With tender resolve, she cupped its wilting petals in her hands, closing her eyes, and willed warmth to flow between them. A promise of hope threaded through her touch. Would the empathia respond to the strength she sought to summon? Ilara knelt in the greenhouse, the scent of damp earth and freshly pruned leaves enveloping her like a comforting blanket, as she tenderly whispered to the delicate vine nestled in her hands, coaxing it to bloom under her gentle touch. But the tranquility shattered when Marcus sauntered in, his Slytherin robes billowing around him, a predatory smirk curling on his lips. "Look at you, talking to plants like some sort of nature whisperer," he sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. The mockery sliced through her reverie, leaving a bitter taste in her mouth, a sudden chill creeping up her spine. Her heart raced, the pulse of insecurity thrumming in her ears as she glanced at her precious plant, feeling the weight of his gaze like a shadow pressing down on her shoulders. "At least I'm not afraid to connect with something real," she shot back, her voice trembling but defiant. Yet the flash of doubt in Marcus's eyes ignited a flicker of her own, and for a moment she hesitated, her fingers slipping from the vine's tender leaves. "You'll never rise above those weeds, Elora," he taunted, stepping closer, the scent of his cologne mingling with the earthy aromas, threatening to suffocate her budding confidence as she fought to reclaim her voice, to stand her ground amidst the swirling doubts. Ilara knelt before the empathia, its ethereal glow pulsating in rhythm with her heartbeat, a soft hum that resonated deep within her chest. She could feel the warm, silken tendrils of energy unfurling toward her, like a gentle breeze inviting her closer. "Come on, just trust me," she whispered, her fingers brushing the delicate, shimmering surface, which felt alive beneath her touch, crackling with potential. The air around them shimmered with fragrant notes of lavender and fresh grass, grounding her in this moment of quiet determination. She could hear Marcus's voice echoing in her mind, laden with skepticism. "You can't change what it is." Yet, as she leaned in, pouring her heart into the unyielding gaze of the empathia, a profound connection began to unfurl, a silent dialogue steeped in hope. "I see you," she murmured, her breath mingling with the air, "and I believe in you." With each soft syllable, a tiny flicker of light ignited within the creature, illuminating the shadows of doubt lurking in its depths. The world around them faded, leaving only the warmth of their burgeoning bond as Ilara embraced the challenge, convinced that nurturing could unveil the layers of a being hidden beneath doubt and fear. As Ilara whispered her fears and dreams, the air around her shimmered with an unspoken magic, the sunlight filtering through the leaves in dappled patterns that danced across the floor. The potted fern nestled on her windowsill trembled slightly, its fronds unfurling as if drawn by her words like a moth to a flame. "You understand, don't you?" she murmured, her voice tinged with a vulnerability that crackled in the warm air. The plant seemed to lean closer, its vibrant green leaves glistening as they caught the light, absorbing not just the sun's rays, but her very spirit. Ilara felt a curious bond forming, as if the fern responded to her emotions, each breath she took flooding the room with a palpable energy. "It's just so hard sometimes, but I know I have to keep trying," she sighed. And at that moment, a delicate shiver ran through the plant, as if it was acknowledging her struggle, offering silent solace. The scent of rich, loamy soil filled her senses, grounding her, and She couldn't help but smile weakly, feeling less alone. "You're my little confidant, aren't you?" She chuckled softly, the corners of her lips lifting, and in that shared moment she found a flicker of hope, bolstered by the steadfast presence of her green companion. The soft rustle of leaves echoed in the stillness of Elara's dimly lit room, a sanctuary woven with shadows and vibrant green, where the air was thick with the earthy scent of damp soil. She knelt before her beloved plant, fingers tracing its jagged edges, feeling the cool, velvety texture beneath her fingertips, a silent companion that listened without judgment, unlike her friends who had begun to drift away, their laughter fading like the last rays of sunlight. "You understand me, don't you?" she whispered, a tremor of vulnerability escaping her lips as she fed it drops of water, each splash a fragment of her heart pouring into the soil. Outside, the world bustled, alive with chatter and movement, but here, enveloped in the suffocating embrace of solitude, she found comfort in the quiet rhythm of growth, the slow unfurling of new leaves, mirroring her own hidden desires. "They don't get it," she sighed, glancing at her phone, notifications blinking like fireflies, but the idea of responding felt heavy, cumbersome. Instead, she leaned closer, inhaling the sweet, rich aroma of plant life, her heart swelling with a strange mix of love and loneliness, as if in this unspoken bond she had found a piece of herself that even the brightest friendships had failed to illuminate. The air inside the greenhouse was thick with the heady scent of damp earth and blooming flowers, a kaleidoscope of colors swirling around Elara like a living tapestry, each petal whispering secrets only the most attuned could hear. She wandered deeper, brushing her fingers against the velvety leaves, feeling their gentle coolness as if the plants themselves were welcoming her. Just ahead, a cascade of vibrant orchids caught her eye, their colors so vivid they seemed to pulse with life. And there, nestled among them, was Luna Lovegood, her silvery blonde hair shimmering like moonlight, eyes wide and sparkling with a peculiar wisdom. "Isn't it lovely here?" Luna's voice floated like a soft breeze wrapping around Elara. "Each flower holds its own magic, just like you." Elara's heart fluttered at the words, an unspoken truth echoing in the depths of her being. "I don't feel very magical," she confessed, her voice barely rising above the whisper of leaves. "Ah, but magic isn't always obvious, you know," Luna replied, a serene smile dancing on her lips. "Sometimes it's hidden, waiting for the right moment to bloom." The way she spoke felt like a warm embrace, and Elara could almost see her own potential unfurling, like a bud opening to the sun, bathed in golden light. In that moment, surrounded by the vibrant life of the greenhouse, Elara believed perhaps, just perhaps, she was meant to shine. Elara knelt in the dim light of her garden, the cool earth soft beneath her fingertips, as the air thickened with the sweet, musky scent of damp soil. The tendrils of the peculiar plant before her, vibrant green and pulsating with an almost eerie glow, began to curl and sway, unfurling in rhythm with the quickening beat of her heart. Each tremor of uncertainty coursing through her echoed in the plant's movement, its leaves flickering like anxious whispers in the wind. "What do you want from me?" she murmured, her voice barely breaking the silence, thick with dusk and trepidation. The plant's vibrant hue deepened in. Response, a reflection of her own turmoil, coaxing her to acknowledge the storm brewing within. Ilara inhaled sharply, her breath mingling with the earthy scent, as if the very essence of the plant beckoned her to face her fears, to unravel the tangled threads of doubt that ensnared her mind. The warmth of its life surged through her, urging her to confront the shadows lurking in her heart. I'm scared," she confessed, her voice trembling, yet the plant responded, its leaves reaching delicately toward her, as if to say, "You're not alone in this." Ilara stood at the edge of the garden, her fingers brushing against the serrated leaves of the luminescent plant that pulsed with a soft green glow, a stark contrast to the fading sunset hues that cloaked the horizon. The laughter of her friends echoed behind her, a bright, unyielding tide of joy that tugged at her heart, yet felt miles away, as if separated by an impenetrable fog. "Come on, Ilara!" Mia called, her voice lilting and carefree, a reminder of the warmth they shared, the secrets whispered on sleepless nights. But here, enveloped in the plant's heady scent, a mix of earth and something sweetly intoxicating, Ilara felt an electric pull, as if the very essence of the world had converged upon this singular, shimmering life. She inhaled deeply, the essence of loneliness mingling with the thrill of discovery, her heart thrumming with indecision. "You understand me, don't you?" she murmured to the plant, her voice almost a whisper, a fragile confession summoning the weight of her isolation. With each passing moment, the laughter faded, replaced by the rustling whispers of the garden. She was lost in a realm where the vibrant life thrived, yet it was a life that kept her apart, straddling the line between camaraderie and an inexplicable aching solitude. Ilara knelt on the damp earth, her hands buried in the rich, loamy soil, the pungent scent of earth and green life swirling around her like an intoxicating perfume. A shaft of sunlight cut through the leaves overhead, warming her back, while the gentle rustle of the trees whispered secrets she was too enthralled to hear. She cradled the young sapling, its emerald leaves trembling slightly in the breeze, the small roots fragile yet promising. "Just a little more water," she murmured, as if the plant could understand her devotion. "Hey, Ilara," Hermione called, her voice a bright chime, momentarily pulling Ilara from her botanical reverie. "Can we talk for a second? I've been worried about you." Ilara glanced up, annoyance flickering in her chest like a dying ember, but she quickly masked it with a tight smile. "Not now, Hermione. I really need to focus on this," she replied, her tone smooth yet clipped as she brushed a wayward lock of hair behind her ear. Beneath the surface, a tangle of guilt twisted, coiling around her heart. Yet the urge to nurture this small green life eclipsed everything else. She leaned closer, feeling the heartbeat of the earth pulse beneath her fingertips, drowning out the loneliness of her friend's abandoned call. As Elara knelt beside the lush empathia, its iridescent leaves shimmering like captured starlight, a sharp pang of loneliness nestled in her chest, like a thorn hidden among the blooms. The air, rich with the scent of damp earth and sweet jasmine, wrapped around her like a comforting embrace. But something was off. The familiar hum of companionship was absent. She brushed her fingertips along the silken petals, remembering the laughter of her friends, the warmth of their shared moments. A spontaneous picnic by the sunlit lake, the evening tales illuminated by soft candlelight. I should call them, she whispered to herself, her voice barely breaking the tranquility enveloping her. Yet the heaviness in her heart weighed more than the air-filled silence, a stark reminder of the growing distance. She could picture Mira's playful grin, Zeke's hearty laughter, the way they had woven their lives together like the vibrant threads of a tapestry. But now the fabric felt threadbare. With each breath, the guilt coiled tighter, suffocating the joy she once found in their company. As she finally realized that in her quest for nurturing the empathia, she had let the blossoms of friendship wither, unattended and alone. Elara stood at the edge of the glade, the full moon casting an ethereal glow that danced upon the surface of the empathia's vibrant leaves, their colors shifting as if reflecting her own heart. It was a night thick with emotion, the air heavy with the mingling sense of damp earth and blooming jasmine, each breath igniting a spark within her chest. As the lunar light bathed her, whispers from the ancient trees wrapped around her like a warm embrace, beckoning her closer. "Can you feel it?" she murmured, her voice barely rising above the rustle of the wind. A soft hum answered, a resonance thrumming with the energy of those lost to sorrow and joy alike, echoing the unspoken depths of her own turmoil. Suddenly, the empathia glowed brighter, its leaves quivering, as if in response to her unmasked feelings. With each pulse, memories surged through her like waves, a kaleidoscope of laughter mingling with tears, the raw beauty of human connection spiraling into her very core. "You understand me," she gasped, overwhelmed, as the tree bowed gently, acknowledging her discovery. In that moment, Elara felt an exquisite bond blossom, illuminating her soul with the wisdom that empathy was not just felt, but shared, deepened by the full moon's magnetic core. The air in the cramped room was thick with tension, the soft flicker of the candle casting restless shadows on the worn stone walls. As Ron confronted Elara, his voice trembling with a mixture of anger and concern. "This isn't just about you anymore, Elara. You've pushed us away long enough." His words hung heavy in the silence, the unspoken fear of losing her settling over them like a dark cloud. Harry leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, a silent support, his heart pounding in his chest as Alara's face bloomed with defiance, her green eyes flashing like emeralds in the dim light. "Can't you see? I'm protecting you both," she shot back, a tremor of vulnerability cracking her fierce exterior. "You don't understand what's at stake." The air crackled as they squared off. Ron stepping closer, the scent of old parchment mingling with the sharp tang of tension. The walls seemed to close in, every word a battle cry, as Harry's mind raced, desperate to find a way to bridge the chasm that had formed between them. "But what's the point of winning if you're alone?" he finally interjected, his voice steady but laced with a profound sadness, hoping to penetrate her fortress just long enough to reach the girl he once knew. Elara's voice trembled with frustration, sharp and biting, as she confronted the injustice of the world around her. Why can't they just see the truth? The air crackled with her fury, a tempest swirling within her chest, and in that moment, the empathia, her once lush, radiant plant, began to shrivel, its vibrant leaves curling inward, losing their emerald sheen. A wave of disbelief washed over her, as if the room itself held its breath, and she stepped closer, the faint scent of damp earth mingling with the bitter tang of her unease. "No, no, please," she whispered, panic rising in her throat, fingers trembling as she reached out. Its once gleaming petals now drooped like the weight of unspoken sorrow, each soft curve a mirror to her inner turmoil. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she murmured, voice breaking, the truth crashing over her like a wave. In a heartbeat, the connection flared, her anger echoed in the trembling leaves, and she felt the empathia's distress, an echo of her own turbulent emotions. "I'm sorry," she sighed, feeling the warmth of her regret, as the plant's vitality flickered, begging for the light she had snuffed out with her own tempest. Elara paced the mossy stone floor of the greenhouse, the scent of damp earth and verdant growth enveloping her like a warm embrace. Sunlight filtered through the glass panes, casting playful shadows on the vibrant array of plants that thrived in their sanctuary. "Professor Sprout," she began, her voice a flutter of uncertainty. I'm struggling to find balance. I love my friends, but my carnivorous plant needs so much care." The professor, her face a canvas of kindness and wisdom, looked up from a tangle of vines she was gently pruning. "Ah, dear Elara," she said, her voice as soothing as the gentle hum of bees at work. "Sometimes nurturing the things we love requires us to share our time wisely. Just as a plant reaches for the sun, you must reach out to your friends." Elara felt a weight lift slightly, a glimmer of hope igniting in her chest. The bright green tendrils of Eldra seemed to sway at her side, as if sensing the shift in her spirit. "But what if they think I care more for Eldra than for them?" she asked, her brow furrowed. Professor Sprout chuckled softly. "True friends will understand that you're blossoming in more ways than one." Under the soft, dappled light that filtered through the trembling leaves overhead, Sprout knelt beside the fragile sapling, cradling its delicate stem with gnarled fingers. Look closely, he murmured, his voice a rich, warm whisper that seemed to resonate with the very soil beneath them. The air around him carried the earthy scent of fresh rain mingling with the sweetness of blooming wildflowers, a fragrant backdrop to his words. To nurture is not merely to provide. It requires understanding, patience, and a touch of kindness. As he spoke, the cool breeze rustled the leaves, a gentle applause for the wisdom he shared. The sapling, with its tender green leaves quivering in the wind, seemed to lean towards him, as if drinking in his compassion. Just like this plant, we must listen, we must feel, he continued, his eyes glimmering with an unspoken truth. Every crack in the soil, every droop of a leaf tells a story, he added, looking up to meet the curious gaze of his young companion, who knelt beside him, enraptured. The connection between them deepened, a silent acknowledgement of their shared journey. Each of them, like that fragile sapling, yearning to grow, to thrive, and to flourish in a world that often felt too harsh. Ilara stood in the sun-dappled clearing, the warm breeze tussling her hair as she watched Hermione, Ron, and Harry approach, their laughter echoing like old times, a balm for her aching heart. The empathia, a delicate flower with petals shimmering like iridescent silk, swayed gently in the dappled sunlight, as if responding to their presence. You know, Hermione said, kneeling beside the flower, it thrives on connection, just like us. Ron, with a lopsided grin, plucked a few weeds nearby, his hands deft and surprisingly gentle. I'd say it's a bit like our friendship, needs tending to or it fades. Ilara felt a rush of warmth at their words, the tension in her chest loosening as Harry crouched down, examining the roots with the curiosity of a child. Look, it's reaching for the light, he remarked, pointing, his eyes sparkling with a hint of mischief. The air around them buzzed with unspoken apologies and hope, the scent of earth and blossoms mingling with the laughter that flowed freely as they worked side by side, each pull of a weed and gentle caress of a petal, pulling the frayed threads of their bond closer together, mending what had once felt irreparably broken. The afternoon sun poured through the window, casting a warm glow over the small kitchen table, now cluttered with soil-stained pots and vibrant green leaves. Laughter bubbled as Mia cradled the delicate fern, whispering, "It's okay, little one. We'll take care of you." A sharp scent of earth mingled with the sweetness of freshly cut flowers, drawing their focus to the fragile plant that had somehow become the heart of their friendship. Jake, kneeling beside her, wiped his brow, his usually carefree demeanor tinged with worry. "I just don't want it to die. You know, it reminds me of us." His gaze flickered to the wilted leaves, a reflection of his own insecurities about their tight-knit group. Sophie, ever the optimist, chimed in, her voice melodic. "Remember when we all had that terrible chemistry project? We almost blew up the lab. But we figured it out together." The faint sound of birds chirping outside drifted in, mingling with their laughter. as they leaned closer, hands brushing, united in their mission. In that shared moment, filled with a mix of tenderness and urgency, they breathed life back into each other, their bond growing stronger as they nurtured not just the plant, but one another's hopes, struggles, and dreams. The flickering candlelight cast dancing shadows on the walls of the Gryffindor common room, where the air was thick with the scent of damp parchment and faintly burnt toast. Ron's voice trembled, a mixture of frustration and vulnerability threading through his words. What if I'm not good enough, Hermione? What if I end up just, doing nothing? He ran a hand through his tousled hair, the warmth of the fire flickering in his tired blue eyes, reflecting the turmoil bubbling beneath his surface. Hermione, with her brows furrowed and a fur-lined cloak draped around her shoulders, bit her lip. The weight of her own fears pressing heavily on her chest. I'm terrified too, Ron, she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. What if I fail? What if I let everyone down? Her hands clenched tightly around a worn-out book, the spine nearly cracked from endless nights of study, as if it were the only anchor keeping her grounded. The intimacy of their shared fears enveloped them like a warm blanket, the crackling fire a backdrop to their burgeoning understanding, both grappling with the unpredictability of their futures, yet finding solace in the strength of their friendship. Together, in that moment, they acknowledged the shadows within, illuminating a flicker of hope that perhaps they could face whatever lay ahead together. In the heart of the greenhouse, the empathia pulsed with life, its vibrant colors shifting like a painter's palette, each hue a testament to the gardener's unspoken feelings. A deep sapphire flickered gently, brightening to a warm amber as Lena's laughter echoed through the glass walls, mingling with the rich scent of damp earth and blooming jasmine. She knelt before the plant, her fingers brushing against its velvety leaves, and it quivered in response, sending tendrils of iridescence spiraling upward, illuminating the air with an otherworldly glow. You feel that, don't you? She whispered, her voice a tender caress, and the empathia rippled, a rainbow of emotion cascading through its petals, as if it yearned to share her joy. The air was thick with the sweet perfume of nostalgia, each color unveiling fragments of cherished memories of sun-drenched afternoons spent in gentle silence. Oh, I miss those days, Elara murmured, a flicker of bittersweet longing threading through her tone, and the plant sensed it, a deep, resonant violet blooming forth, wrapping around her like a comforting embrace. Here, in this sanctuary of light and life, every heartbeat, every sigh was woven into an ethereal tapestry, binding them in a dance of shared existence. Elara knelt in the rich, loamy soil of her garden, fingers caressing the delicate leaves of the sapling she had nurtured for months, the sun casting a warm glow upon her back. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and blooming jasmine, and every breath filled her with anticipation as she whispered softly to the plant, "You're stronger than you know, just like us." The vibrant green of its leaves seemed to shimmer in agreement, a promise of resilience. Nearby, the laughter of her friends floated through the air, a chorus of joy that mingled with the gentle rustle of leaves. Mia was recounting a misadventure at the market, her voice bubbling with excitement. Ilara looked up, their camaraderie wrapping around her like a comforting blanket, a reminder that growth was not just about the soil, but about the bonds they cultivated together. "Ilara, come join us," Amira called, her eyes sparkling with mischief. A surge of warmth enveloped Ilara as she stood, the realization sinking deep into her heart. Every day spent in the garden was not just about the plants, but about the friendships that took root alongside them. "Just a moment," she called back, her smile radiant as she gently patted the soil around the sapling, feeling the empowering pulse of life tether her to both nature and her cherished friends. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the bustling workshop, where Ilara's project, a delicate tapestry woven with threads of ambition and creativity, blossomed under her careful hands. Marcus, leaning against the doorframe, watched her with simmering rage, each smile she shared with her team like a dagger twisting in his gut. "She thinks she can outshine me," he muttered, clenched fists trembling at his sides, a flicker of a cruel smile playing on his lips. He traced the outlines of the tools on the nearby shelf, imagining the chaos he could unleash, the threads of her dreams unraveling at his touch. The scent of freshly cut fabric mingled with the earthy aroma of wood shavings, the air thick with the electric buzz of inspiration. It was intoxicating to Ilara, but for Marcus, it was a noose tightening around his neck. "What's the matter, Marcus?" a voice called, but he barely registered it, his mind racing with schemes. "You look like you've swallowed a sour lemon," as laughter bubbled within the workshop. He fixated on the half-finished project, an intricate piece that would define Ilara's legacy, and with a heart colder than the shadows creeping across the floor, he envisioned how to bring it all crashing down. The moon hung high and heavy, casting ghostly shadows across the labyrinth of plants in the greenhouse where Marcus crept, his breath shallow and frantic. The fragrance of damp earth and blooming night jasmine filled the air, a stark contrast to the turmoil swirling within him. He could almost hear the soft whispers of the empatia, those ethereal beings cradled among the emerald leaves, their gentle pulses beckoning him, inviting him to feel their warmth. But tonight, he had come not to embrace, but to destroy. His heart a battle of conflicted loyalties. "Just one cut," he muttered under his breath, fingers trembling as they traced the edge of a glinting blade. "Just one." As he neared the cluster of the empathia, their luminescent forms pulsing like tiny stars, a pang of doubt gripped his chest. Memories of laughter and acceptance flashed before his eyes, their soft, melodic voices tumbling through his mind. You're not like them, Marcus. You belong with us. A flicker of hesitation froze him in place, the weight of his decision hanging in the air like the thick humidity around him. "Stop, please," a soft voice chimed, and he spun around, heart racing, as one of the empathia floated closer, its radiant light shimmering with concern. "You don't have to do this." In that moment, with the blade poised and trembling, the battle within him raged louder than ever. The moon hung low, casting silver shards across the weathered cobblestones. As Ilara's heart raced, she pushed through the last of the shadows, her breath heavy with the scent of damp earth and wild jasmine. There he was, Marcus, silhouetted against the crumbling wall, furtively digging into the ground with relentless determination, his hands dirty, desperate. "What are you doing?" she demanded, her voice a fierce whisper that cracked through the night like glass. He froze, eyes wide, a mixture of surprise and guilt washing over his features, like a storm brewing on the horizon. "It's not what you think, Ilara," he stammered, wiping his brow, sweat mingling with the cold air. But she could feel the pulse of betrayal tightening in her chest, a hot ember threatening to ignite. "You're hiding something, and I won't let you do this alone," she said, stepping forward, fists clenched, her newfound strength surging through her like a tide. The silence stretched, thick and charged, as Marcus turned, vulnerability shadowing his defiance. "Then you need to trust me," he murmured, the weight of his words hanging heavily between them. And in that moment, Ilara knew their destinies were intertwined, bound by secrets that could either save or destroy them both. As the tension crackled in the air, Ilara's heart raced, but she steadied her breath, her voice a gentle balm against the storm. "Marcus," she began, the warmth of her tone slicing through the sharp edges of his anger. "What if we paused for a moment? Just think about how we're affecting each other." The rays of the setting sun streamed through the window, casting a golden halo around her, illuminating the sincerity etched on her face. Marcus, fists clenched and jaw tight, blinked in surprise, caught off guard by her calm amidst the chaos he had stirred. "What do you mean? It's not that simple," he shot back, his voice cracking, revealing the vulnerability beneath his bravado. Ilara stepped closer, her eyes softening as she continued, "I know it feels like a battle, but what if we tried to understand instead? I see you're hurting and that makes you lash out, but I promise I'm here to listen." The air thickened with unspoken emotions, and for a fleeting moment the walls of resentment crumbled, replaced by a fragile hope. He hesitated, glancing away, as if the weight of her words reached into the depths of his stubborn heart, igniting a flicker of understanding that had long been extinguished. "You really think that could change anything?" he murmured, his defenses wavering. The soft glow from the overhead lamp cast a warm hue across the cluttered room, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the still air. Marcus sat on the edge of his battered couch, hands trembling slightly as he picked at the frayed hem of his jeans. He began, his voice barely a whisper, thick with unshed tears. "I don't remember the last time I felt normal. Ilara's heart ached, the weight of his words pressing against her chest like a stone. She could see the shadows under his eyes, the way his shoulders slumped, as though he were carrying an invisible burden. The faint smell of cigarette smoke lingered, mixing with the bitter scent of unwashed laundry, wrapping around them like a fog of unspoken fears. Sometimes, he continued, his gaze distant, I feel like I'm just fading away, you know? Ilara leaned forward, the thrill of empathy surging within her, filling the space between them with warmth. You're not fading, Marcus, she said softly, her voice steady. You're just finding your way back. She reached out, her fingers brushing against his, offering a silent promise that she would stand beside him, no matter how tumultuous the path ahead. The moment hung between them, fragile yet powerful, as Marcus caught her gaze, a flicker of hope igniting in his weary eyes. The air crackled with an unspoken tension as Marcus shifted his weight, his eyes narrowing on the flickering campfire that illuminated their faces in sharp relief, shadows dancing on the rough canvas of the tent behind them. Maybe, he said, his voice barely above a whisper, almost swallowed by the crackling embers. We don't have to be enemies. A hesitant laugh escaped from Tara, the sound mingling with the rustle of leaves in the chilling night breeze. A spark of warmth amidst the uncertainty that hung heavy in the dark. She glanced at him, searching for sincerity, the way the firelight revealed the lines etched on his brow, the vulnerability beneath his bravado. You mean that? She asked, her heart racing, the sweet scent of pine mingling with the smoky air, grounding her in the moment. Marcus met her gaze, a flicker of something softer in his steely demeanor, as if the weight of their past animosity was lifting with each word unspoken. I think we could be more than this, he murmured, extending a hand, palm up, a silent invitation, an olive branch wrapped in hope. The air shifted, electric with the promise of new beginnings, as Tara's fingers brushed against his, an unexpected warmth radiating from the contact, binding their fates with a fragile but undeniable thread of possibility. The air buzzed with the scent of fresh basil and the earthy perfume of potting soil as Ilara and her friends huddled around a cluttered wooden table, their hands a flurry of sketches and notes. What if we create a living mural? Ilara suggested, her green eyes sparkling with excitement as she envisioned vibrant leaves intertwining with colorful flowers, each representing a unique emotion. We could use the empathia plants to illustrate how feelings shape our world. Milo, his brow furrowed in concentration, twirled a pencil between his fingers. But how do we make them talk? They need to show their stories, not just sit there. The sunlight streamed through the greenhouse windows, casting dappled patterns on their faces, illuminating the fervor that danced between them. Tia, leaning forward with her dark curls cascading over her shoulders, added, "What if we incorporate sound? Each plant could whisper its message, like a symphony of emotions. Elara's heart swelled with hope. Together they were crafting not only a presentation, but a tapestry of connection, where every leaf and petal could share its truth, making the world a little brighter, a little more understood. Let's gather all the plants we can and start experimenting, she exclaimed, her voice rising above the soft rustle of leaves, inspiring determination that pulsed through the room. The scent of damp earth and vibrant foliage wrapped around them like a warm embrace as Clara held her breath, her fingers brushing against the velvety surface of the bioluminescent petals. Look how it glows when you touch it, she whispered, a mixture of awe and gratitude spilling from her voice, her eyes wide with wonder. Under the soft glow of lanterns, scattered across their makeshift workspace, the kaleidoscope of colors danced in rhythm with their heartbeat, illuminating their emotional journeys, each struggle, each triumph, woven intricately into the fabric of their collective effort. Jack stepped back, his brow furrowed in concentration, the crisp rustle of paper echoing in the stillness as he pinned a photograph of the first time they had discovered the plant, laughter bubbling around them like effervescent champagne. "This moment," he said, eyes sparkling, "this is where the magic began." The group gathered close, their shoulders brushing, a quiet solidarity forming as they arranged the vibrant documents, each one a testament to their resilience, their fears laid bare amidst the delicate foliage. The air vibrated with anticipation, their hearts tethered to the display. A celebration not just of the plant's extraordinary abilities, but of how it had intertwined their lives, transforming them in unforeseen ways. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm golden hue over the small garden, where the scent of damp earth mingled with the sweet perfume of blooming jasmine. Amira knelt beside her favorite plant, a vibrant monstera, whose leaves unfurled like hands reaching for the sky, while her fingers gently brushed against the coarse soil, feeling the pulse of life beneath. "You know Leo," she murmured, glancing over at her friend, who leaned against the weathered fence, arms crossed and a soft smile playing on his lips. "It's like nurturing you. Helps me remember how important it is to nurture the people in my life, too." Leo chuckled, the sound rich and buoyant, echoing in the crisp evening air. "Yeah, like that time you forgot my birthday," he teased, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "I thought I was just a weed in your garden." Amira laughed, her heart swelling as she met his gaze. "No weeds here, just a bit of neglect. I promise to keep us both flourishing." Be that. She poured water into the dry pot, watching the soil absorb it eagerly, then reached out to squeeze Leo's shoulder, grounding herself in their friendship. In that moment, amidst the garden's whispers and their light-hearted banter, they both understood. Love, whether for a plant or a friend, required patience, presence, and the gentle art of cultivation. The sun peeked through the trees, casting dappled shadows on the bustling crowd, as laughter and chatter rose like a chorus, blending with the sweet scent of lavender and the crisp aroma of fresh basil wafting through the air. Students darted from one booth to another, their eyes wide with wonder, fingers brushing against vibrant displays of bioluminescent fungi and shimmering dew-covered leaves. "Look at this one, Sarah!" a boy exclaimed, beaming as he held up a tiny glowing plant that pulsed gently in his hands. Nearby, a group of girls giggled, entranced by a flower that changed color with every whisper of the wind, its petals shimmering in beautiful shades of blue and pink. The sound of excited voices was punctuated by the occasional gasp as someone discovered a particularly rare specimen, and the air buzzed with energy, a palpable excitement that wrapped around everyone like a warm embrace. "I can't believe we made this," Sarah called out, her voice tinged with pride as she showcased a delicate terrarium filled with miniature exotic plants. But around her, eyes sparkled with admiration, and in that moment, they weren't just students showcasing projects. They were explorers, botanists, inventors, united by the magic of nature and the thrill of discovery, their hearts swelling with possibility. The soft hum of the empathia resonated gently in the air, its iridescent leaves shimmering like morning dew as Ilara stood beside the verdant display, eyes gleaming with excitement. "Watch closely," she urged, her voice a delicate whisper as a curious child approached, hesitant yet drawn in by the plant's vibrant glow. As the child reached out, the empathia pulsated a warm amber light, mimicking the awe radiating from the small face. Gasps of wonder rippled through the crowd, each visitor's mood woven into the plant's color spectrum. The deep blues of serenity, the fiery reds of joy, and the muted greens of introspection. "It's like it knows how I feel," a woman breathed, her fingers hovering just above the leaves, the air thick with a tapestry of emotion. Ilara nodded, her heart swelling with pride, for this was the culmination of countless hours spent nurturing the bond between human and flora. "It responds to empathy. It can sense your heart," she explained, her voice a melodic lull amidst the chatter, the empathia's delicate vibrations intertwining with the crowd's collective heartbeat. Each pulse a reminder of the connection they shared in this moment of pure, unfiltered emotion. Ilara stood in the dim light of her cluttered workshop, the scent of sawdust mingling with the sharp tang of paint, her heart pounding against the cage of her ribs, each beat a reminder of the weight of her ambition. The half-finished model loomed before her, an intricate lattice of wood and metal, yet in her mind it felt like a fragile house of cards, ready to collapse under the weight of doubt. "What if they don't see it?" she mumbled to herself, biting her lip, the taste of fear mingling with the bitterness of her coffee, now cold and forgotten on the workbench. The shadows danced around her, whispering the unrelenting questions that gnawed at her resolve. What if I can't convey the passion behind this? She closed her eyes, imagining the faces of her audience. Anticipation, curiosity, perhaps even skepticism. But all she could see was the flicker of uncertainty reflecting back at her. "Just tell them," she whispered, trying to summon the courage that felt so elusive. "Tell them why this matters." And yet, even as she spoke, her hands trembled, hovering above the model, as if poised to either create or destroy, and in that fragile moment, doubt wrapped around her like a heavy fog, dimming the light of her vision. The cool, dim light of the library settled around them like a soft cocoon, the scent of old parchment and ink mingling with the faintest hint of lavender from Hermione's wand, a charm she'd cast to ease the tension in the air. As the hours slipped by, Ginny's fingers trembled over her parchment, the ink blots pooling like dark clouds threatening a storm. "I can't do this, Hermione," she whispered, frustration and fear tightening her chest. Hermione's gaze was steady, piercing through the doubt, a gentle smile breaking the shadows clinging to Ginny's spirit. "But you have, time and again. Remember the Quidditch final? The way you soared above everyone else?" The words wrapped around Ginny like a warm blanket, igniting a flicker of warmth inside her, banishing the chill of despair. Despite the weight of her fears, she could almost hear the cheers, feel the exhilaration of flying, of being unbound and fearless. "You've faced darker things, Ginny. Just look at how far you've come," Hermione urged, her voice a melodic reassurance. The memory of victory shimmered in Ginny's mind, and for a heartbeat the pressure lifted, replaced by a smouldering determination to rise once more, to embrace the challenge ahead. Elara stepped into the center of the bustling marketplace, the vibrant colors of her dress swirling around her like a flower unfurling in the sun, while the warm scents of spices and fresh bread danced through the air. She held the delicate, bioluminescent plant aloft, its leaves shimmering with an otherworldly glow, reflecting the curiosity in the eyes surrounding her. "How does it make you feel?" she asked, her voice a soft melody that cut through the chatter. A young boy stepped forward, his wide eyes sparkling with wonder. "It feels happy," he exclaimed, a toothy grin spreading across his face. As if on cue, the plant pulsed gently, the glow intensifying, sending ripples of light across the eager faces of the crowd. "See?" Elara laughed, her heart swelling with excitement. "It thrives on your emotions." An elderly woman raised her hand, her voice trembling with nostalgia. "It reminds me of my garden, where my heart used to sing." With every shared feeling, the plant responded, its colors shifting, creating a breathtaking display of blues and greens that painted the air around them. Elara beamed, feeling the warmth of connection enveloping her like a soft embrace, as laughter and appreciation reverberated through the crowd, a chorus of life intertwined with nature. The air shimmered with unspoken tension as Harry's heart raced with an inexplicable anticipation. Then, with a soft rustle, Dumbledore materialized, his robes flowing like liquid moonlight, eyes twinkling with a warmth that cut through the heaviness of the moment. "Ah, what a peculiar gathering we have here," he said, his voice a melodic echo that seemed to wrap around them like a comforting blanket. The scent of old parchment and the faint hint of lemon drops lingered in the air, mingling with the sharp tang of uncertainty that clung to Harry's thoughts. "Empathy," Dumbledore continued, peering into the depths of Harry's soul as if reading an open book, "is not just about understanding another's pain. It's about daring to feel their joy, their triumphs, even in the shadows of your own struggles." Harry felt a warmth blossom in his chest, as if Dumbledore's words were igniting a forgotten spark. The flickering candlelight danced in sync with their unspoken connection, drawing forth memories of friends lost and found. To empathize, Dumbledore smiled gently, is to weave the fabric of our lives with threads of kindness and understanding, binding us closer in this tapestry of existence. With that, Harry inhaled deeply, feeling the weight of loneliness lift, if only for a moment. Amid the sunlight filtering through the classroom windows, a vibrant tapestry of emotions hung thick in the air, rich as the scent of damp earth after a... Gathered in a circle, the students took turns sharing their stories, voices soft yet steady, as if each word were a delicate petal unfurling. "I felt so alone at the beginning of the year," whispered Lena, her fingers tracing the green leaves of the potted plant at the center. "But when I shared that in our last meeting, it felt like I could finally breathe." As she spoke, the plant seemed to respond, its leaves stretching toward her, vibrant and alive, as though soaking in the warmth of her honesty. Beside her, Jamal nodded, his brow furrowed. "Yeah, it's like we're all connected now. Even when we're apart, we carry each other's stories." The room pulsed with a collective heartbeat, emotions swirling like warm currents, nurturing the roots of the plant, which now burst forth with new growth, a vivid symbol of their blossoming bonds. Joy and vulnerability intertwined, resonating through the walls, echoing the silent promise that here, within this space, they were seen, understood, and never truly alone. Sunlight streamed through the glass panes of the greenhouse, casting a warm glow over the vibrant array of plants, each leaf trembling slightly, as if they too were basking in the shared joy that filled the air. Laughter bubbled up from a group of students clustered around a newly repotted tomato plant, its green leaves glistening with moisture. "See how it leans towards the light," Mia exclaimed, her voice bubbling with excitement as she nudged Sam, who was kneeling beside her, carefully spreading rich, dark soil around the base. "It's like it's reaching out for help," he replied, a thoughtful frown making way for a smile, understanding dawning in his eyes. Around them, others were lost in their own conversations, but the essence of connection threaded through the air like the scent of fresh earth mixed with blossoming jasmine. A sudden burst of laughter snapped their attention. Ella, accidentally splashed water on Noah, who feigned outrage, shaking his hands dramatically. "You call this a celebration?" The room swelled with joyous energy, hearts opening like the myriad of flowers blooming around them, each moment a testament to their newfound bond, their empathy intertwining like the roots of their beloved plants, nurturing not just growth in the garden, but within themselves. The sun filtered through the stained glass windows of the great hall, casting vibrant patterns on the polished wooden floor, where Ilara stood, her heart racing, fingers trembling as she held her potion, a swirling, iridescent liquid, shimmering with a kaleidoscope of colors. Professor Sprout's warm, melodic voice cut through the murmurs of awed students. "Ilara, your innovative infusion of moonlit dew and enchanted marigold petals is extraordinary." The praise unfurled around her like golden ribbons, lifting the weight of her self-doubt. Dumbledore, with his twinkling eyes and commanding presence, nodded appreciatively, his silver beard swaying slightly as he added, "You have shown us that true magic often lies beyond the pages of dusty tomes." Her cheeks flushed with warmth, a bright bloom against the backdrop of the great halls. Grandeur, as the whispers of her peers grew louder, tinged with a mixture of admiration and envy. Ilara stole a glance at her friends, their beaming smiles igniting a spark of joy deep within her. The sweet scent of freshly baked pastries wafted through the air, mingling with the heady aroma of her potion, and in that moment she felt invincible, a sense of belonging washing over her like the gentle caress of a summer breeze. Ilara knelt in her small garden, the fragrant earth cool beneath her fingers as she cradled the vibrant leaves of the plant she had nurtured from a mere seedling. Sunlight filtered through the canopy of aged oaks above, casting dappled shadows that danced across her face, and she could almost hear the whispers of the wind echoing her thoughts. "You've grown so beautiful," she murmured softly, brushing a finger along the glossy green leaves, their vitality mirroring the resilience she had discovered within herself. Each droplet of dew glimmered like a tiny gem, reflecting her triumphs and tribulations, the late nights spent coaxing life from the soil, the moments of doubt when she feared she lacked the strength to see it through. As she inhaled deeply, the earthy scent filled her lungs, grounding her, reminding her of the patience she had learned, the love she had poured into this living tapestry. "We're a team now," she whispered, half laughing at the absurdity of speaking to a plant, yet feeling a profound connection, a bond forged through care and commitment. "You taught me that growth isn't just about what blooms, but how the roots dig down deep." In that moment, surrounded by nature's embrace, she understood her journey, like the plants, was a testament to resilience, to the beauty of becoming. Ilara stood at the edge of the bustling marketplace, her heart racing with the rhythm of life surrounding her, the vibrant colors of fruits and fabrics dazzling under the midday sun. The air was thick with the sweet scent of ripe peaches, mingling with the earthy aroma of fresh spices, a harmony that felt almost intoxicating. With each step, She could feel the weight of her past doubts slowly lifting, replaced by a surge of warmth that radiated from deep within her. A vendor, his voice a melodic drawl, called out, "Fresh figs, sweet as summer's kiss." She met his gaze, her lips curling. Into a genuine smile, a flicker of connection igniting between them. "I'll take a handful, please," she replied, her voice steady, reflecting the boldness she now embraced. As he handed her the vibrant, plump figs, she noticed the twinkle in his eyes, a reminder of the simple joys shared between strangers. The laughter of children danced through the air, a sound so pure, so carefree, that it wrapped around her like a comforting shawl. Elara breathed deeply, savoring the moment, the vibrant essence of life swirling around her, igniting her spirit. "Today," she whispered to herself, "I will embrace every challenge with empathy and heart." The air shimmered with a gentle warmth as Lila knelt beside the empathia, her heart racing with anticipation. Sunlight danced through the canopy overhead, casting dappled patches of gold onto the soft earth, where vibrant petals began to unfurl. Each blossom emerged like a secret whispered among friends, their sweet, heady fragrance enveloping her in a comforting embrace. "Look, Aidan," she exclaimed, brushing her fingers against the delicate pink and violet petals, their surfaces soft as whispers. "They're blooming just for us." Aidan, standing a few paces away, watched in awe as the flowers sprang forth, their colors brightening against the muted greens of the forest. He grinned, the corners of his eyes crinkling with delight. "Everyone tells a story," he mused, stepping closer, entranced. A gentle breeze stirred, carrying the scent of friendship through the air, a promise of unbreakable bonds. Leela plucked a flower, its stem glistening with dew, and handed it to Aidan. "Together, we'll nurture this friendship." She smiled, her heart swelling with a newfound understanding of the empathia's gift. As they stood there, surrounded by blooms that whispered tales of loyalty and trust, the world around them faded, leaving only the unspoken vows entwined in the scent of blossoms. Elara sat cross-legged on the grass, the warmth of the sun pouring down, casting dappled shadows through the rustling leaves above. When she was approached by Mia, her eyes wide with uncertainty. "Can you help me? I don't know what to do with Jason," she whispered, her voice trembling like a leaf in the breeze. Elara felt a thrill of recognition, the familiar twinge of her own past struggles surfacing as she nodded, inviting Mia to sit beside her. The scent of blooming wildflowers mingled with the faint aroma of freshly cut grass, a perfect backdrop for the delicate unfolding of another's heart. "What's going on?" Elara asked softly, her tone laced with the warmth of empathy. As Mia spoke, her words tumbling out in a rush, Elara listened intently, the world around them fading into a soft blur. The anxious flutter of Mia's hands, the way her gaze darted away when the conversation turned vulnerable, all of it mirrored a younger version of herself, and with each shared secret, Elara felt something shift within her. It was as if she were weaving a tapestry of courage, threading together the struggles of her classmates, each stitch illuminating her own growth. The sun dipped lower, casting a golden hue across their circle, and for a moment it felt as though they were cocooned in a sanctuary of understanding amid the chaos of burgeoning adolescence. Ilara stood at the front of the sunlit classroom, the scent of freshly watered potting soil mingling with the faint aroma of crayons, an inviting blend that spoke of new beginnings. A row of eager faces peered up at her, wide eyes glimmering with curiosity, their small hands fidgeting with the edges of sketchbooks adorned with doodles of flowers and vines. "Today," she began, her voice warm and steady, "we're going to explore not just how to care for plants, but how to care for each other too." The students, a motley crew of bright T-shirts and mismatched sneakers, leaned closer, captivated. She gestured toward a thriving pothos plant, its emerald leaves trailing like the hair of a woodland nymph. "Empathy is like this plant. It needs nurturing, patience, and a little sunlight to grow." A boy in the front, eyes round as saucers, raised his hand. "Can empathy really help plants?" Ilara smiled, her heart swelling with affection for these blossoming minds. "Absolutely," she replied, her words wrapping around them like a warm hug. "Just as you learn to understand your friends, you'll learn to understand the needs of your plants. Let's start with our first lesson, listening." The room filled with a tangible buzz of anticipation, as she could almost see the seedlings of compassion taking root in their innocent hearts. Ilara stood backstage, her heart hammering against her ribcage, a frantic drum echoing the chaos in her mind. The stage lights pierced through the heavy curtain, casting a warm glow that felt more like a spotlight on her insecurities. She clenched her trembling hands, the cool metal of her bracelet biting into her skin as she replayed the words in her head, her breath hitching with each rehearsal. "What if I forget everything?" The thought spiraled, pulling her deeper into the quicksand of self-doubt. "Ilara, you can do this," she whispered to herself, though the sound felt almost foreign, swallowed by the buzz of the audience beyond the curtain. Voices mingled, laughter rippling through the air, a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside her. She caught a glimpse of her reflection in a cracked mirror, eyes wide and uncertain, hair frizzing from the humidity, and for a moment it felt like the woman staring back was a stranger. "You've prepared for this," she muttered, trying to pull strength from the memory of late nights spent crafting her speech. But her throat tightened, words stuck like thorns. "Just breathe, Ilara," a soft voice urged from the wings, her mentor's presence grounding, yet even that comfort felt heavy, a reminder of the expectations resting on her shoulders. The weight of the crowd's gaze pressed against her shoulders, a palpable force knitting her. Resolve as she stepped forward, heart pounding like a war drum. The air was thick with anticipation, a sweet tang of hope mingling with the earthy scent of damp wood from the nearby trees, their leaves shimmering like emeralds in the pale light. She inhaled deeply, the cool breeze whispering secrets of courage, and, in that moment, the echoes of her past, the fears that clutched at her throat like a vice, faded into a distant murmur. "You've got this," she whispered to herself, the sound almost lost amidst the rustling foliage. Her voice, though quiet, trembled with the weight of her truth as she spoke. "I'm here to share my story, to show that we can rise from the shadows," she declared, each word surging from the depths of her being. Eyes widened in the audience, some glistened with unshed tears, and she felt a connection swell, raw and electric, binding her to those who craved the same bravery she was summoning. Embracing the vulnerability that saturated the moment, she let the warmth of the sun filter through the branches, illuminating her path forward, a beacon guiding her toward the unknown, yet vibrant future. Ilara laid out the vibrant array of colored papers and paints across the long wooden table, their edges curling slightly from the late afternoon sun streaming through the tall windows of the old barn. The air buzzed with excitement, mingling with the faint scent of fresh-cut grass wafting in from the open door, while laughter floated around them like music. "What if we do a mural?" Lyra suggested, her eyes sparkling with inspiration as she grabbed a bright blue paintbrush, its bristles still glistening from a previous project, and waved it like a wand. Theo, perched on the edge of the table, bounced in agreement. "Yes! Something that represents all of us, our stories." Ilara felt a warm thrill in her chest, a reminder of their shared dreams and late-night talks, as ideas soared like butterflies caught in the golden light. They sketched designs in the margins of old notebooks, voices overlapping in a chorus of creativity, each suggestion sparking another. The clinking of paint bottles filled the pauses, while the soft rustle of paper seemed to echo their hopes. It was not just a workshop, it was a tapestry of friendship, woven together with laughter and the promise of something beautiful. "Let's make this unforgettable," Ilara declared, her heart swelling with joy as they dove deeper into their collaborative vision. Ilara stood just outside the greenhouse, her heart racing like a butterfly trapped against glass. The scent of damp earth and blooming jasmine swirling around her, teasing her senses. She smoothed her hands over the frayed edges of her sweater, a feeble attempt to calm the whirlwind of anxiety brewing within her. Voices, bright and eager, drifted from inside. The younger students, their laughter ringing out like chimes in the soft morning light. "Did you see the poppies?" one exclaimed, the excitement palpable. Ilara took a deep breath, letting the earthy aroma fill her lungs, grounding her in the moment. She could feel the warmth of the sun on her back, a gentle reminder that she was not alone in this endeavor. "You've got this," she whispered to herself as her fingers grazed the wooden door. With every step closer, memories of her own youthful hesitations flashed before her eyes, a whirlwind of uncertainty that had once consumed her too. Yet today, She was the mentor, the guide, ready to share her passion for the plants that had once whispered secrets only to her as she pushed open the door. The vibrant color of the greens and blossoms leapt into view, enveloping her in a cocoon of warmth and possibility, filled with the promise of discovery. The room hummed with anticipation, sunlight filtering through the tall windows, casting golden patterns on the polished wooden floor, as Ilara stood before her small audience, her heart racing with the weight of her words. Empathy, she began, her voice steady yet warm, is not just a feeling, it's a bridge. She could see their eyes widen, some nodding slightly, eager for what was to come. With a deep breath, she launched into the tale of her journey with the empathia, a mystical realm where emotions took form, swirling colors dancing around her like a vibrant aurora. I remember the first time I stepped into that world, she continued, her hands gesturing as if she could conjure the essence of her memories. A woman, tears streaming down her face, clutched a small child, her sorrow palpable, wrapping around me like a thick fog. The room fell silent, the air thick with unspoken emotions, as Ilara's words painted vivid images of loss, hope, and connection. I realized then, she said, softly, her gaze sweeping across the faces before her, that our stories intertwine, and through understanding we grow. The warmth of her message enveloped them, drawing them closer, igniting the flickers of empathy that lay dormant within. The room hummed with quiet anticipation, walls lined with posters that whispered encouragement, their vibrant colors a stark contrast to the heavy air, thick with vulnerability. A flickering light overhead cast shadows that danced nervously as Mia broke the silence, her voice trembling. I've always been scared of not being enough. Murmurs of understanding swirled around her, fragile yet palpable, as her classmates leaned in, eyes wide, feeling the weight of her confession settle between them like a shared blanket of warmth. The scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the faint, comforting aroma of old books, creating an intimate cocoon that wrapped around their insecurities. Sam nodded, his voice steady yet soft. We all feel that way sometimes, don't we? Like we're just pretending. A collective sigh escaped the group, a release of tension, as they exchanged glances, finding solace in the shared journey of doubt and discovery. The soft rustle of papers turning echoed in the background. Yet it was the heartbeats and whispered reassurances that resonated the loudest, weaving a tapestry of support that bound them together, each story a thread reinforcing the fragile yet resilient fabric of their community. The room pulsed with an unspoken energy as the students leaned closer to the luminous plants, their fingers brushing against the foliage with a reverence usually reserved for ancient artifacts. Each touch sent ripples of warmth through the air, the empathia, an otherworldly, bioluminescent vine, reacting to their emotions like a chameleon in a sun-drenched garden. Lila, her heart racing with curiosity and wonder, felt the tendrils quiver, glowing a soft violet, mirroring her awe. "It's like it knows us," she whispered, eyes wide, as a wave of laughter rippled through the group. Nearby, Raj, who felt the familiar weight of uncertainty creeping in, noted how the leaves dulled to a muted blue, reflecting his trepidation. "What if it doesn't like me?" he muttered, half joking, yet the empathia flickered, a gentle pulse beneath his fingertips, urging him to embrace the moment. The scent of damp earth and sweet nectar filled the air, mingling with the heady fragrance of excitement. Caught in this shared experience, they exchanged glances, half smiles blossoming as the plants seemed to weave their emotions into a tapestry of light, drawing them closer, binding them in a silent understanding that transcended words, an unspoken promise of connection that wrapped around them, tangible and alive. In the dimly lit corner of the bustling cafeteria, a hush fell over the tables, like a soft blanket smothering a fire, as Mia, her voice barely above a whisper, recounted her experiences of being bullied. The clatter of trays and laughter faded into the background, replaced by the sharp intake of breath from the students surrounding her. She fiddled with the frayed hem of her sweater, her fingers trembling as she described the relentless taunts, how they'd echoed in her mind long after the words had left their lips. "It felt like a shadow that never left me," she said, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. A soft murmur of understanding rippled through the group. And Sam, a tall boy with tousled hair, leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "I've seen it happen," he said, his voice steady but tinged with regret. "And I wish I'd said something." The air thickened with empathy, a palpable warmth that began to fill the void of isolation as others shared their own stories of hurt, weaving a tapestry of shared experiences. Laughter faded, replaced by nods and understanding glances as the students collectively stepped into Mia's shoes, feeling the weight of her burden lighten just a little in that moment of connection. The classroom buzzed softly, a mixture of anticipation and anxiety hanging in the air like the delicate scent of blooming lavender from the pot in the corner. Ilara, with her warm, inviting smile, swept her gaze across the faces of her students, their eyes glistening with unvoiced thoughts, each one a tiny storm waiting to break. "It's okay to feel nervous, you know," she said gently, her voice like a soothing balm, as she tucked a stray lock of hair behind her ear. "Who wants to share what's on their mind?" A hesitant hand rose, fingers trembling, and Ilara nodded encouragingly, a silent invitation. "I feel like I never get it right," the girl whispered, her voice barely reaching the rows of desks, yet it echoed with the weight of countless worries. Ilara stepped closer, the soft rustle of her flowy dress barely audible, and knelt beside her, the warmth of her presence wrapping around the girl like a comforting shawl. "You're not alone in this, I promise," she said, her eyes glimmering with understanding. The room seemed to breathe, tension easing as others began to share quietly, their words weaving a tapestry of vulnerability, trust, and connection. Ilara guiding them through their worries, nurturing their courage like a gardener tending to fragile seedlings under the sun. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm golden hue over the courtyard as laughter echoed off the aged brick walls. Elle stood amidst a cluster of younger students, their eyes shining with a blend of admiration and gratitude. Tiny hands clutching brightly colored notebooks filled with sketches and notes. "Thank you for helping me with the math problem, Elle. I really didn't get it before," piped up Mia, her voice bubbling with excitement, a few strands of hair flopping into her eyes as she bounced on her toes. A gentle breeze wafted by, carrying the faint scent of blooming lilacs, as Elle knelt down to meet their eager faces. "You all did the work. I just showed you how to see it differently," Elle replied, warmth spreading. Through her chest, a soft blush creeping over her cheeks. The older students, once timid and hesitant, now beamed with newfound confidence, their previous apprehensions melting away like ice in the sun. "Let's show everyone the project tomorrow, okay?" piped in Kevin, his eyes wide with enthusiasm. "Yeah, together," echoed the others, their voices merging into a symphony of hope and camaraderie, a bond forged in understanding, each grateful smile illuminated by the golden afternoon light. The wind howled like a wounded beast, whipping through the narrow alleyways of the old town, carrying whispers of what lay ahead. As she turned the corner, Clara's heart raced, the shadows deepening around her. The streetlights flickered nervously, casting wavering pools of yellow light that barely reached the cracked cobblestones, and she could hear the distant echo of hurried footsteps. Too close, too quick for comfort. "I can't keep running," she muttered to herself, desperation coating her words like bitter iron. Just then, a figure emerged from the gloom, tall and cloaked, eyes glinting with an unsettling mix of recognition and intent. "Thought you could escape so easily?" The voice slithered through the air, sharp and taunting. Clara's. Breath caught in her throat, a knot of fear tightening her chest. She could feel her pulse pounding in her ears like a war drum. The figure stepped closer, a smirk ghosting across their lips. "You've stirred up a hornet's nest, and they all want a taste." She backed against the cool stone wall, her fingers brushing the hidden dagger she had tucked away for emergencies, steeling herself. "I won't let you take anything from me," she shot back, defiance igniting a flicker of courage within her. The alley felt alive, charged with an electric tension as the world around her seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the storm to unleash. The wind howled through the narrow alley, a symphony of anguish as Ilara pressed her back against the cold stone wall, her heart thudding in her ears. Shadows danced beneath the flickering street lamp, long and sinister, and the sharp tang of rain-soaked earth filled her nostrils. She could hear them now, the soft scuff of boots on damp pavement, two figures advancing steadily toward her, their voices low, conspiratorial. "She has to be here somewhere," one whispered, a note of frustration edging his tone, the map was clear. Ilera clenched her fists, the parchment crumpling in her palm, the treasure it promised, both a beacon of hope and a harbinger of doom. She had thought of the riches, of freeing her brother from the clutches of the cruel magistrate, and yet now the weight of her choices bore down on her like a leaden cloak. "I can't let them find me," she murmured, almost pleading with the shadows themselves. Her breath visible in the chill air. The alley was her sanctuary, but it was also a trap. And as the figures came into view, faces masked, eyes glinting with hunger, they were not just searching for treasure, they were searching for her. She had to move, had to decide, but the stakes were higher than just gold now. It was her very life they were after. The air thickened with the scent of burning wood and the acrid tang of smoke as Lila dragged her feet toward the edge of the forest, the moonlight catching the glint of something metallic half buried in the underbrush. Heart racing, she knelt, brushing aside damp leaves, her fingers trembling as they revealed a tarnished locket, its once gleaming surface dulled by time. The detail is comforting, but priced surely thousands of times before. Clasp, stubbornly resisting her attempts, finally clicked open, revealing an old photograph. A woman with kind eyes and a fierce smile. "Mum?" she whispered, the word barely escaping her lips before the sound of rustling leaves pierced the quiet. A reminder she wasn't alone. Shadows shifted ominously, and from behind a twisted oak, a figure emerged, frame tall and menacing. "You shouldn't be here, Lila," a familiar voice warned, laced with anguish. It was Daniel, her childhood friend. But the haunted look in his eyes sent a shiver down her spine. "They're closer than you think." Gritting her teeth, she held up the locket, its weight suddenly heavy in her palm. "What do you know?" she demanded, resolve hardening as the darkness pressed in around them. The stakes rising like a tide, threatening to swallow them whole. As the sun dipped below the jagged horizon, casting long shadows across the desolate landscape, Clara felt a shiver race down her spine. The brittle wind whispered promises and threats through the skeletal trees, urging her to turn back, yet her resolve hardened with every step. The flickering glow of a distant campfire danced in her vision, illuminating figures cloaked in darkness, their laughter sharp and cruel, echoing through the night. "You're not welcome here," a voice called out, slicing through the air like a dagger, sending a fresh wave of panic surging through her veins. Clara's heart hammered in her chest, the weight of her mission pressing down on her like a stone. She caught sight of a glinting blade, the firelight reflecting off its edge, taunting her with the reality of what lay ahead. "We know why you've come," another voice chimed in, smooth and serpentine, "and it won't end well for you." The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating, twisting her stomach into knots. Caught between the shadows and her purpose, Clara took a deep breath, the taste of smoke and fear mingling on her tongue, and stepped into the flickering light, determined to confront the demons waiting for her. The air crackled with tension as Iris crouched behind the gnarled oak, its bark rough against her palms, while the forest whispered secrets of danger. Moonlight filtered through the leaves, casting flickering shadows that danced like spectres around her. The distant rumble of thunder echoed ominously, a reminder of the storm brewing, not just in the sky, but within her heart. The sharp tang of damp earth mingled with the sweet scent of pine, each breath tasting like a desperate gamble. Suddenly a rustle broke the stillness, jerking her head around, heart thudding against her ribcage. "Is someone there?" she called, her voice barely above a whisper, quivering with fear. The silence that followed felt alive, electric, thick with unspoken threats. A figure emerged from the brush, tall and cloaked in shadow. Elias, his face obscured, but his presence unmistakable. "You shouldn't be here, Iris," he warned, his voice gravelly yet laced with urgency, eyes scanning their surroundings. "They're coming." Her stomach twisted. "Who's coming?" "The ones who think they own this land," he replied, stepping closer, urgency radiating from him like heat. "And they won't stop until they find you." The weight of his words hung in the air, taut as the lightning that split the sky above, illuminating the path of their impending peril. The echoes of her heels clicked against the marble floor, a staccato rhythm that mingled with the distant murmurs of the gala, where laughter glimmered like crystal chandeliers overhead. Heart pounding, Lena slipped into the dimly lit hallway, the heavy scent, jasmine and polished wood enveloping her as she approached the brass-handled door at the end. She hesitated, feeling the prickling chill of uncertainty crawl up her spine, the weight of her secret pressing down like a stone in her pocket. A muffled voice drifted through the cracks, sharp and urgent. "We can't let him find out. Not now." She edged closer, her breath hitching as she strained to hear, her pulse quickening at the realization that each syllable twisted the knife of her resolve deeper. Suddenly the door creaked open and a figure emerged, their silhouette casting a long shadow that swallowed Lena whole. "You shouldn't be here," they whispered harshly, eyes darting around. "You don't know what's at stake." Panic surged within her, but deeper still was a fierce determination. "I need to know," she replied, voice steady, "if it's really worth everything we've sacrificed." In that moment, the stakes soared. The fragile thread of trust between them stretched tight enough to snap. The air thickened with an acrid tension as Lila dashed through the narrow alleyways of the city, her heart pounding in rhythm with her hurried footsteps. Shadows cloaked her surroundings, the flickering streetlights casting ghostly silhouettes that danced along the damp cobblestones. A faint siren wailed in the distance, growing closer, and each note sent a spike of adrenaline coursing through her veins. "I can't go back," she muttered under her breath, feeling the warmth of her breath cloud around her in the chill of the night. Just ahead, a door creaked open, revealing Sam, his eyes wide with panic, the faint glow of a single flickering bulb illuminating his disheveled face. "Lila, you shouldn't be here," he hissed, glancing over his shoulder, urgency coating his voice. "Did you find it?" she pressed, the weight of their shared secret hanging heavily between them. "Not yet, but they're onto us," he said, his voice dropping to a whisper, fear mingling with desperation. Outside, the world pulsed with danger, every siren a reminder of what was at stake. Lila's stomach twisted, but the thought of turning back was insufferable. "We have to move, now," she replied, determination igniting within her, every instinct screaming that their fragile window of safety was about to shatter. The storm hit with a ferocity that rattled the windows, each crack of thunder echoing like a warning. Inside the cramped cabin, Anna, huddled by the flickering fire, her heart racing as she rummaged through the tattered map once more, desperate to decipher its secrets. The wind howled outside, a wild beast clawing at the timber walls, but it was the nagging doubt in her gut that gnawed at her more fiercely. "We can't wait much longer." Caleb's voice broke through her spiraling thoughts, urgency laced in every syllable. "If we don't leave now, we'll lose our chance." She glanced at him, his face shadowed in the dim light, eyes reflecting a tumult of fear and determination. "You don't get it. The treasure, it's not just gold. It's our only hope." Anna's voice trembled, reality crashing over her like the rain pelting the roof. She swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her dreams and then her fears. The map hinted at something so much larger, a destiny intertwined with her family's legacy. Yet the storm outside mirrored the tempest brewing between them. "And what if it's a trap?" he countered, disbelief etched into his features. "We could end up losing everything." The thunderous roar of the approaching storm drowned out their whispered fears as Clara clutched the pendant around her neck, the metal cool and familiar against her racing pulse. "We have to go now," she insisted, her voice barely rising above the wind's howling, each gust filled with the promise of chaos. The forest loomed darker than she'd remembered, branches clawing at the sky like skeletal fingers, shadows swirling with unseen threats. Beneath the canopy, a sudden crack like splintering wood made them freeze, hearts pounding in their chests, fear threading itself into the very air around them. "Did you hear that?" Jake's eyes darted to the underbrush, his breath quickening, the bravado he'd carried like armor suddenly stripped away. They were not alone. Clara's stomach twisted, the weight of their quest crashing down as she thought of the ancient map tucked away in her pocket, the prophecy that promised power but also called forth something dreadful. "We can't be caught out here," she murmured, urgency igniting her veins. A figure emerged from the shadows, cloaked in darkness, a low chuckle reverberating through the trees, sending a shiver down her spine. "You think you can escape?" it taunted, voice smooth as silk, laced with danger. The stakes were no longer just her life. They risked unleashing a force far beyond their control. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decay as Mia crouched behind the twisted remnants of an ancient oak, her heart racing like the trapped sparrows in the bushes. She could hear them, the low murmur of voices rising like smoke, punctuated by the sharp crack of branches underfoot, and each sound sent tremors of dread coursing through her. "This is it," she muttered under her breath, her fingers clenching around the hilt of the dagger hidden in her boot, its cool metal a small comfort in the rising tension. "Where is she?" a voice barked, deeper and more gravelly than she remembered, reverberating through the fog like an unholy chant. It was Vincent, a shadow from her past, come to reclaim what she had taken, the promise of her freedom, a wisp of smoke slipping through her fingers. He could picture him, the anger etched deeply in his features, his eyes ablaze with the thirst for revenge. The forest shivered around her, as if holding its breath, and as she edged closer, the world beyond the tree line blurred into a tense haze. "Don't let her escape," another voice yelled, lighter, desperate, and it stung Mia's heart. Lila was with them. The stakes had risen, no longer just Mia's life at risk, but Lila's soul hanging precariously in the balance, and with each passing moment, the distance between freedom and captivity narrowed dangerously. The wind howled like a wounded beast as Clara crouched behind the crumbling stone wall, her heart pounding in rhythm with the distant echoes of gunfire. The air was thick with the acrid scent of smoke and charred earth, a bitter reminder of the chaos that had unfolded just moments before. Shadows danced across her field of vision, silhouettes of figures moving with purpose, their heavy boots crunching on the debris-strewn ground. She could barely make out their intentions, but the tension coiling in her gut hinted at a darker truth. "Keep moving. We don't have time," a voice barked, sharp and commanding, sending a jolt of fear through her veins. It was Marcus, his eyes scanning the horizon, filled with a mix of determination and desperation. He turned toward her, a flicker of concern crossing his face. "Clara! We need to reach the safe house, now. They're on to us." A sudden explosion rocked the area, sending Clara sprawling against the wall, her breath catching in her throat as the ground trembled beneath her. Dust and debris rained down, and for a heartbeat everything became a blur of noise and confusion. The weight of their mission pressed down on her, the stakes higher than ever. Failure was no longer an option, not when the lives of those she loved hung precariously in the balance. As she pulled herself up, resolve igniting within her, she knew they were being hunted. But she also knew she would fight tooth and nail for survival. The air crackled with tension as Eleanor stood at the edge of the forest, the shadows of ancient trees looming like guardians of a forgotten realm. A chill whispered through the leaves, rustling with secrets that sent shivers down her spine. She could feel the weight of her decision pressing against her chest, every heartbeat a reminder of the choice she had yet to make. "We have to go deeper," Marcus urged, his voice a low murmur that barely pierced the oppressive silence. "You know he won't stop until he finds us." Eleanor's fingers brushed the hilt of the dagger at her side, its cool surface grounding her in the reality of their peril. The wind shifted, carrying the distant echoes of laughter, soft and mocking, a sound that sent a jolt of dread through her. "What if we're walking right into a trap?" she replied, her voice barely above a whisper, laced with uncertainty. "Or a way out," Marcus countered, his gaze fixed intently on the dim path ahead, where shadows pooled like ink. She could hear the thud of her heart in her ears, the choice looming larger than the darkness around them, as if it threatened to swallow them whole. With a determined breath, she stepped forward, the scent of damp earth and wildflowers filling her lungs, each step deeper into the unknown, the stakes rising alongside her resolve. The soft crunch of leaves underfoot punctuated the heavy silence as Ilara trudged deeper into the forest, her heart pounding with each hesitant step. Shadows danced around her, pooling in the underbrush, and the air grew thick with the scent of damp earth and decay. A rustling from the thicket made her freeze, breath hitching in her throat, and just as she steadied herself, a figure emerged. Thorn, his face pale and eyes wild. Ilara, you shouldn't be here, he whispered urgently, the tremor in his voice unmistakable. What do you mean? We can't give up now, she insisted, her voice steady, though she felt the fraying edges of fear tugging at her resolve. Behind him a low growl rumbled, echoing through the twilight, and Ilara's pulse quickened, the stakes suddenly clearer. A massive beast, its eyes glowing like embers, loomed in the dim light, poised to pounce. Ilara, run, Thorn shouted, desperation lacing his words, but she stood her ground, heart racing not just from fear, but from the weight of their mission. The creature breached the foliage, its breath hot and fetid, and in that moment, Ilara knew they were not just fighting for survival. They were fighting for everything they had ever lost. The wind howled through the jagged peaks, carrying the scent of impending snow as Clara clutched the fraying map in her hand, the ink smudged and nearly illegible. "We're running out of time, Sam," she said, her voice barely rising above the gusts, eyes darting to the shadowy crevices that loomed like watchful giants. Sam hesitated, the weight of his pack pulling him back, fingers curling tightly around the compass, its needle spinning wildly. "If we don't find the cave before nightfall, we'll freeze out here," he replied, his breath visible in the frigid air, tinged with panic. The distant rumble of thunder echoed ominously, a reminder that the storm was not merely a possibility, but an approaching certainty. Clara could feel the ache in her bones, each gust of wind biting deeper. And yet, the glimmer of hope fueled her pace. "Look," she pointed, a flicker of relief igniting within her. Just ahead, the mountain's ridge dipped, an unnatural darkness pooling against the snow. That has to be it. But as they drew closer, a low growl reverberated from within the shadows, a sound that sent ice coursing through her veins. "Did you hear that?" Sam whispered, fear tightening his throat. Clara nodded, heart thundering, as the darkness shifted and two glowing eyes emerged, hungry and searching. The stench of smoke hung thick in the air. As Lena rounded the corner, her heart hammering against her ribs, each beat a frantic reminder of the peril lurking just beyond the flickering shadows. Through the haze, the cracked asphalt shimmered under the light of a single street lamp, its glow barely illuminating the figures crowding around the abandoned factory. The low murmur of voices, urgent and tense, cut through the oppressive silence, piercing her thoughts like shards of glass. "You don't understand. They're coming for us," a man's voice rasped, filled with desperation, while another replied sharply, "We can't just run, we need a plan." Lena crouched behind a dumpster, cold metal digging into her back as she strained to catch every word. Her gut twisted. She hadn't anticipated that others were involved, hadn't realized the stakes had risen beyond simple survival. The air crackled with tension, a tangible energy that tugged at her instincts, urging her to flee, yet anchoring her to the spot. Then a sharp crack echoed through the alleys, the unmistakable sound of a gunshot, and her breath caught in her throat. "Get down!" someone shouted, panic seeping through the air like the smoke that now curled ominously toward the night sky. Lena's pulse raced, for the shadows had transformed from mere predators to a gathering storm. She had to choose, step out and confront the danger, or retreat into the dark, leaving chaos behind her. The wind howled through the cracked windows of the old barn, whipping hay into a frenzy as Clara crouched behind a rusted tractor, heart pounding like a jackhammer. She could hear them now, distant voices rising in urgency, the sound of her father's strained breaths mingling with the growl of the advancing storm. "I've told you, Clara, stay hidden," he had shouted, his voice breaking, a warning laced with desperation, but the fear had clawed at her insides, urging her forward. A shadow flickered at the barn's entrance, and she held her breath, the metallic tang of fear filling her mouth. The figures of the intruders emerged, their silhouettes stark against the gathering darkness, and she could make out the glint of metal in one man's hand. "Split up," one commanded, his tone cold and methodical. "We need to find her before it's too late." Clara's pulse quickened, a new wave of panic crashing over her. What did they want? An urgent whisper slid through her mind, echoing her father's past warnings. "They're coming for the map." Heart in her throat, she pressed against the tractor, praying the creaking wood would keep her hidden, while raw determination ignited within her. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a fiery glow across the cracked pavement, Clara's breath quickened, her heart pounding like a drum. The distant wail of sirens sliced through the air, mingling with the acrid smell of smoke that clung to her clothes, a stark reminder of the chaos still unfolding just blocks away. She gripped the edge of the crumbling wall, the rough stones scraping against her palms, grounding her amid the turmoil swirling inside. "We can't stay here," she whispered, desperation creeping into her voice, glancing at Tom, whose face was pale, the weight of the decision heavy between them. The shadows deepened as the evening stretched on, an unsettling blanket cloaking the alley. The flickering streetlight above cast erratic shapes, and from the gloom, murmurings grew louder, threatening, conspiratorial. "They know," Tom said, his eyes wide, reflecting the panic that ignited in Clara's chest. "If we don't move now, we'll be trapped." A chill crawled down her spine, the reality of their situation crashing over her like a cold wave. She knew they had to make a choice: but the looming darkness felt alive, pulsating with the weight of every secret they'd uncovered, every betrayal that lay ahead. The air was thick with the acrid scent of smoke as flames licked hungrily at the edge of the forest, crackling like a sinister chorus. And amidst the chaos, Ilara's heart thudded in her chest, a wild drumbeat of fear and urgency. She crouched behind a gnarled oak, its bark rough against her back, the heat radiating from the fire licking at her skin. An ever-present reminder that time was slipping through her fingers like the ashes swirling in the wind. "We have to move now," shouted Jax, his voice strained, eyes wide with a frantic resolve that only deepened her dread. She could see the shadows of the town in the distance, flickering like lost souls, and the distant wail of sirens added to the dissonance, a siren song of hope and despair intertwined. "Not without him," Ilara gasped, the weight of her brother's absence a crushing boulder in her chest. She could picture him, alone and terrified in their burning home, the cries of their childhood echoing in her mind, drowning out the roar of the flames. Each second stretched into eternity, the promise of safety feeling like a fragile dream, and she clenched her fists, determination setting her jaw. "I won't leave him. He needs us." A fleeting moment of silence enveloped them, the world holding its breath before the crackling inferno surged forward, the shadows creeping closer, as if the night itself sought to swallow them whole. The wind howled through the cracked windows, carrying with it the scent of rain-soaked earth and something more sinister, something metallic, something that tasted like fear. Anna stood in the dimly lit workshop, her hands trembling as she clutched the handmade pendant, its cool surface gleaming ominously under the flickering fluorescent light. "We have to go now," Jake's voice broke through the shadows, urgent and raw, his eyes darting to the door as if it were a sentinel ready to pounce. Distant thunder rumbled, a warning echoing her growing dread, and she could hear the frantic thumping of her own heart, each beat punctuating the silence that hung heavily between them like a curtain of smoke. "I can't," she whispered, her throat tightening, memories of their last escape clawing at her resolve. "Not without it. It's just a trinket." He shot back, frustration lacing his tone. But she could see the fear brimming in his gaze, the unspoken truth that this pendant might hold the key to their survival. Outside, a shadow flitted past the window, dark and menacing, and Anna knew in that moment the stakes had risen. Either they faced whatever haunted them outside, or they would be devoured by the past they couldn't outrun. The air crackled with tension as Maya pressed her back against the damp stone wall of the ancient tunnel, her heart pounding like a tribal drum, echoing the urgent whispers of her companions. "They're coming," she hissed, the scent of mildew and cold earth suffocating her, mingling with the metallic tang of fear. The flickering torchlight illuminated the jagged edges of the tunnel, casting elongated shadows that danced like phantoms, testing the resolve of the group. Just ahead, the faintest rustle of fabric sent a chill skittering down her spine. Was it just the wind, or something much worse? "Stay quiet," muttered Ethan, his voice barely above a whisper, his eyes wide, darting to the darkness that loomed beyond the dim light. Each footfall of the unknown pursuers felt like a countdown, a drum roll for the inevitable confrontation. "If we don't move now, we're done for." Maya glanced at the others, their faces grim, eyes reflecting a mosaic of dread and determination. She could almost taste the desperation in the air, like iron against her tongue. "We can't just run into the darkness," she whispered back, her voice trembling. "We need a plan." The flicker of the flame seemed to hesitate, mirroring the uncertainty that hung thick among them as the distant sound of heavy boots pressed closer, a wicked reminder that time was running out. The night air crackled with tension, a sharp wind rustling the leaves overhead, as Clara stood at the edge of the forest, her heart pounding like a war drum. The moonlight cast a silvery sheen over the clearing, illuminating the jagged rocks that whispered secrets of the past. A low growl echoed from the shadows, an ominous symphony that sent shivers down her spine. "You shouldn't have come back." A gravelly voice rasped from the darkness, and Clara's breath hitched, her pulse quickening in response. "They're not done with you yet." The scent of damp earth and pine needles filled her lungs, grounding her as she took a tentative step forward, her resolve hardening. "Maybe I'm not done with them," she shot back, her voice steadier than she felt, the uncertainty weaving through her like a thin thread. From the underbrush emerged a figure, cloaked in the oppressive gloom, their eyes glinting with an unsettling mixture of fear and urgency. "They're gathering, Clara, and this time it's not just your life at stake, it's everything." The weight of their words settled heavily on her shoulders, twisting her stomach in knots as she clenched her fists, the familiar spark of defiance igniting within her. "Then let's finish this," she murmured fiercely, the forest around her breathing with the promise of the battle to come.